Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You ready to have some fun and maybe explore some ideas in some degree of depth? We're up to chapter 21 today. Just a few comments before we get started. First of all, thanks a lot. Scott is what we're going to do today is a little bit different than we usually do. We usually do 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break, 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break, come back for another 45 minutes. Today, I'm going to split the time with Scott. So I'm going to do like 70 minutes, and then we'll take like a 15-minute break. And then we'll come back, and Scott will do the next 70 minutes, the second portion. And then I'll come back again for the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes or less to lead a meditation and do some closing things. Okay, so that's what's our program. Just let's look at some announcements. So I just explained the structure of the class to you. If you're here new with us for the first time, we really appreciate your leaving information so that we can continue to be in touch with you. Not everyone does that. By the way, just to talk a little bit about, you know that we're on YouTube. We're getting a nice response on YouTube. By a nice response, I mean there are 950 subscribers at this point. And they do correspond with us a little bit. Here, I'll read one. This is a recent note. Thanks so much for the latest edition. I was waiting for it to arrive, and now I can enjoy seeing everyone again. Lily Katz, Shanti, Billy, I like that guy, very down to earth. Brad, Lena, you, signed Ian Korea. So it goes around the world. So just keep this in mind that if you do not wish to be on film, you probably want to sit back there by Billy. But Billy gets on too from time to time when we turn it over that way. Let me just say a word about the new seminary we have here not the new seminary, All Faith Seminary. Started off as a new seminary here in New York. We just had our graduation this past June. We're beginning to gear up for our fall program. We have an intensive training program which leads to ordination as an interfaith minister, but we have 3 tracks of study. You can do the comparative religion track, which is a traditional track, a Course in Miracles track, and then a rabbinical track. And it just so happens that today our dean, Kathleen Reagan, is sitting here on the front row. If during the break this should interest you, why don't you grab her ear and tell her that it does interest her. So another word about Scott. It's difficult to know what to say about Scott. I've known Scott for probably, we were trying to figure out in the car driving up, early 90s, I would guess, somewhere along in there with Paul Farini. He's been a very, very active Course in Miracles student, teacher, singer, songwriter, funny guy, and I appreciate him very much. So I'm glad that he's going to be doing our second section today. The latest edition of Miracles Magazine is out, the July issue, which you can see. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, one way that you can support us is by going to our website, miraclesmagazine.org, and taking a subscription to Miracles Magazine. I create these little booklets each time for the different lectures, picking out the primary passages that we're going to go through, partly because we're a little bit truncated today. Obviously, we're not going to get through all of this, so there's more here. For those of you who might have missed Chapter 20, which we did last time, there are extra copies, about a half a dozen or so laying over there, that you can just take those for free. And for folks who are watching via the YouTube, they can get these simply by going to our website, miraclesmagazine.org, and downloading it onto your own printer. So it's very, very easy to do. Don't you love this age we live in? Right? So what we also ask is that we try to have, give me an opportunity to spend about the first half hour pretty much just talking about whatever we're doing here. And then as the day progresses, we break down with more and more dialoguing and questions and answers and that sort of thing. Okay, let's get into Chapter 21. Chapter 21 is I know I've said this before, probably many times. One of my favorite chapters. At least it's one of the chapters that I quote the most because there are two sections in this particular chapter. The first one and the second one, which are just really, really crucial in terms of understanding what the whole Course in Miracles is about. For some reason, I turned on the computer this morning and I was looking at something on Barnes & Noble's website, and I looked at the course, and I looked at a review, and I saw somebody give it a 1 star, and I thought, that's curious, let me see what the 1 star was about. And the 1 star said, this book says that there's no sin, and then it turns around and talks about forgiveness. Now, how does that make any sense in the world? If you got sin, you got to have forgiveness. Obviously, you need to go into depth in terms of understanding. Ultimately, there is no sin, and sin is what we see. And it's the forgiveness which enables us to realize that there's no such thing as sin. But you got to be able to make that step. You got to be willing to go there. So, chapter 21, again, has a lot of discussion about the power of the mind and our ability to choose. Very simply put, every single second, every single moment, every single day, every one of us are a choice. And in terms of Course in Miracles, we can choose to go with what the Course calls our right mind or our wrong mind. We can go with vision or with judgment. We can use just perception, or we can go to a higher realm, which the Course talks about as being knowledge, which is really a state that is what we have in heaven, is a place of knowledge, etc. So one of the parts that I like to quote from this a lot is the very, very beginning of chapter 1, the introduction. So let's do it. Projection makes perception. Period. Now let's just stop right there. I mean, that is such an important sentence. It's only 3 words. It appears twice in the Course. This same sentence appears in chapter 13 as well. Projection makes perception. So we are always projecting we're always making up the world we see. We're always evaluating it. We're either condemning it or blaming it, or there's another possibility is that we could be blessing it. We could be loving it, whatever it is that we're seeing, even those things which might normally be distracting to us, but it's okay. Projection makes this perception. The world you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. Let's underline the word nothing. It is nothing more than that. Though it's not more, it's not less. Therefore, to you, it's important. It is a witness to your state of mind. It is an outside picture of an inner condition. As the inner condition that we're always really working on and we're thinking about. That's why the Course in Miracles says, and we'll talk about this more today, don't worry about fixing the world. The hardest part to fix is your mind. And that is something that you can fix. I mean, that is something that you can change. If you can change that, and if you can begin to look upon the world with loving eyes, with accepting eyes, with gentle eyes, with innocent eyes, that changes everything. Because then you're not looking at it with judgment and condemnation. Even the things that we might normally think of, you just see that this is it's an error. Probably one of the best ways that we understand this is parents, in which case our child may do something that's not quite right. It in no way affects the fact that we love the child. It doesn't, nothing is saying, and this is God's view of us. God always, in terms of the Course in Miracles, there's a passage in this section here where it says, my little children. Right? So he's always talking about little children, never referring to us as adults. And what are little children? Well, little children are those who are still growing. They're still learning. And we're all involved in this process of learning until we would reach real maturity, actually in terms of where the Course in Miracles is going, until we come all the way back home to God again, which means that we fully return the mind back to the mind of God, and we're home. I have a subscription to a word a day from the Webster's Dictionary. So each day you get a new vocabulary word that you can learn. And 2/3 of the time I'm familiar with the word, so I just bleep it. But every once in a while they'll throw in a very unusual, strange word to learn for the day. They like to sometimes throw in funny words. I have listed here like bumfuzzled, which just means that you're confused, or flopdoodle, which these would be some good words for our singer over there, which means nonsense. Recently they had a list, in addition to the word, they'll sometimes have other words, like words you could use for Scrabble or something like that to help you win. And one day they had big words, right? Like, for example, contrasuggestibility. That's pretty kind of obvious what that one means. And contraremonstrance, which means I object to your objecting, or I protest your protesting. It's the sort of flipping it back, right? So recently, one of the words that really got my attention was agathococological, okay? Which is 17 letters long. It's agathocological. And it comes from the Greek, aga meaning good, koka meaning kaka. You know what that word means, right? Or bad. And logical, right? So what it really means is having a split mind, or having a divided mind. And I thought, well, that's perfect for Course in Miracles students, because we really all have agacocological minds. I mean, we all have split minds. So, part of the time we're loving, and then part of the time we're seeing things the way God would see them. And then part of the time we have this other kind of a mind, which is very judgmental and condemning, and kind of we're in this back and forth play. We are literally of a mixed mind. I love you, I hate you. I mean, there was a song, there's a Latin song that goes, I love you. Anybody know what the name of that song is? It's got the phrase, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. Of course, the last line is, I love you. It winds up being back in love again. But that's the position that we're in. And so seeing how this is a course in mind training, we're learning how to train our minds in such a way that the I love you part becomes the dominant part, and the other part actually completely at some point disappears, at which point we're getting back toward something we might call enlightenment. And I've said before that the whole intention of the Course is to help us to give the mind back to the mind, capital M, mind. And this is where the work is. There's a lot of work involved, and because we can find all kinds of justifications for finding problems in the world, seeing problems in the world. And yet the Course is telling us that literally everyone is innocent. And unless you can see them as innocent, regardless of what's going on, you've not yet seen them correctly, right? So let's go on. I'm going to repeat that again and add another line. On 3 in your booklet, if you're going along with it. Projection makes perception. The world you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. But though it's not more, it's not less. Therefore, to you it's important. It's a witness to your state of mind, the outside picture of an inner condition. And we add one more sentence. As a man thinketh, so does he perceive. Now, one of the things I think is interesting about as a man thinketh, so does he perceive, is that this line is straight from Proverbs in the Bible. Proverbs 23:7, where it actually says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's just slightly different. But as we think in our hearts, right? Not as we think with our heads, but as we think in our hearts, it's the thinking in the heart that matters. And then Jesus repeats this idea in the Gospel of Matthew in 9:4 when he says, "Why do you think evil thoughts?" Right? So it's just trying to get us to stop and to look. The next line in this same passage is probably one of the most quoted lines in the whole Course in Miracles. Therefore, seek not to change the world, period. This is very important. Seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. So again, everything is based upon how we see it. It's not about fixing the world. It's not about going out there. Now that doesn't mean that you don't give money to causes, that you don't help people who ask for your help. Indeed you should. Because in terms of the Course would say they've actually been sent to you. So seeing how they've been sent to you, you should do whatever it is that, whether it's in a small way or whatever way you can, to try to be of assistance. And don't worry about who to be. And there's also a line in the Course where it says, as you begin to learn this Course, the teachers will also appear for you. And now sometimes a teacher may not be who you expect. It might be a child who is being very fussy at the moment, right? So that's your teacher, because the child is teaching you patience and an ability to continue to be loving despite the difficulty of the situation that you're facing, right? It's not necessarily a formal teacher, right? But then also keep in mind that the Course is very clear that there is a teacher who is always with you, which we refer to as the Holy Spirit. So the guidance from the Holy Spirit is always there as well. And so a lot of times the Course is going to ask that when we're in a situation where we need to make a decision, that you really want to stop. What we tell kids when they come to a crosswalk? Stop, look, listen, right? So you stop, you look at what's going on inside your own head. Look at the back and forth play of the thing. And then listen, but listen in this case to the deeper guidance. And if you listen to the deeper guidance, you will hear it because it's there, and then you can follow it. Let's go on down to the bottom of 3. Reading again from the part from the Course. There is no world apart from what you wish, and herein lies your ultimate release. Now that's also a very important line. There's no world apart from what you wish. So in this sense, again, that's just saying we're always making up the world. We're as we wish it. Change but your mind on what you want to see, and all the world must change accordingly. Just try to imagine what it's like if for some reason when you have a mystical experience, currently working on a book about near-death and mystical experiences. When you have a mystical experience, suddenly the same things that you've looked at many times before, excuse me, sorry, will have a beauty about them that you didn't even notice had any beauty about it. And it can be nothing important. I mean, it may be just looking at subway tracks or, but it's because your vision begins to change that everything literally begins to take on that kind of quality about it. It can even begin to shine. The Course actually says one of the ways that you can tell that your vision is changing in a very literal sense is that sometimes you may even begin to see lights around whatever it is that you're looking. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be flowers and pretty things. It can be anything, right? Back to the top of 4. For we but see the journey from the point at which it ended, looking back on it, imagining that we once again review mentally what has gone by. We'll try to explain that. We're all, right now, exactly where we're supposed to be. in terms of our spiritual learning experience. So seeing how we're all right where we're supposed to be, then that means it doesn't make any difference what my circumstances are. So I'm laying on a gurney in a hospital, which may not be a place that I want to be, but actually it's exactly the place that I need to be. Is Veronica here today? Oh, she's there.
Yeah.
You want to tell about your experience on the gurney in the hospital? Do you mind? Would you? Okay, all right, you put the camera over to her?
Yeah, I have a mic up.
Oh, she needs a mic, yeah. We have to have mics. Okay, thanks, George. Sorry about this, but YouTube doesn't pick it up if it's not on.
Yeah.
Tell us about your...
All right. I'm going to talk really fast because it happened fast, so I'm going to tell it fast. Okay, one evening I was having pain, and I said to my boyfriend, I don't feel well. He told me to go lay down inside, and I did, and I still had pain. Then all of a sudden, I started to break out in a sweat from my head to my toes, and I just felt really bad, like I could hardly get dressed. And I said to him, call an ambulance, I'm having a heart attack. Now, what happened to me was all the information that I needed started to flood into my mind. Like I had seen a show with Dr. Oz, and it was on women and heart attacks. And everything he said, he talked about sweating, the arm going numb. So all that information came to me. And also about calling an ambulance. My girlfriend had told me when she called an ambulance, they had nothing on board to save her life, that you needed to call paramedics. They were more equipped. So that information came to me. So I said, forget the ambulance, call the paramedics. So the paramedics came, and they started working on me right in the living room. And it seems, I said to John, this was like the most spiritual heart attack anybody could ever have. Because it seems like the ambulance was like right around the corner, because my boyfriend was still on the phone and they were coming in. They ripped my shirt open, and I said to them, am I having a heart attack? And they didn't really want to tell me, but I was. So anyway, I went to the ambulance, and they put me on a gurney, and they ran with me to the operating room, and it had occurred to me, wow, I could die. And like that was it. Like I had no fear or nothing. It was just a thought, like I could die from this. And there was just no fear. And I don't know. And that's because of A Course in Miracles, to
Right.
tell you the truth.
You can hold on to that till we need it again.
Okay.
So it's a very good example of acceptance. And what I meant by you're always in the right place, even when the place that you're in may not look like, we don't want to be having a heart attack. But the message, in a way, that Veronica is getting is, it's okay. I mean, it's okay if she lives, which obviously she did, and it's okay if she was going to go. Either way, it's okay, because it's a part of the plan, right? There's really nothing to be afraid of. And in conditions like this, you begin to see it. Sometimes there was a guy named Sir Alister Hardy, who was a professor of zoology at Oxford, who got very interested in studying mysticism, and he did this extensive study back in the 80s. And he made a whole list of what's most likely to cause you to have a mystical experience from the most. And the number one thing that was most likely to cause you to have a mystical experience, you would be surprised what it was. It was kind of what happened here with Veronica. It was despair and depression, or a crash and burn experience. Because that kind of brings everything up in your face right here. I mean, this is reality big time. Part of what the Course is saying, of course, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, is that for most of us, most of the time, we're actually, as Scott said in one of his songs, not this one, we're sleeping. We're sleeping, and so something wakes us up. Now, I might add that there's other ways to wake up, which are actually a lot more fun. Actually, I think one of the things that we're seeing in this country, and not just in this country but around the world right now, is that there's a growing awakening of a spiritual nature, which is directly related to the fact that the churches are dying. And it's directly related to the fact that the churches are dying because the churches are no longer able to provide real spiritual sustenance and nurturance for folks. They're good on a community working level together and helping each other. But when it comes to real spiritual, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? Going down deeper into it. When I used to teach classes on mysticism at the university, my textbook was by Evelyn Underhill. And in there, she described different steps and stages in the spiritual growth process. And I've seen these same steps and stages. It's very interesting that different cultures will talk about the same steps. The first step is that there has to be something which begins to cause an awakening inside you. That's why you're here. I mean, you're here because you've experienced already enough of an awakening going on inside that says, look, there really must be a lot more going on than what we've been told. And now, to top it off, we get this incredible book which tells us, which begins to answer these questions that we've had so that we get a new sense of direction. So here it is. But that spiritual awakening, however it happens, that's really the first step. It might come as a result of a crash and burn experience, but it doesn't have to come as a result of a crash and burn experience. Sometimes it'll come for just exactly the opposite reason. By that, I mean it will come because you get everything the world is offering you. I mean, you are successful. You get the house, you get the car, you get all of that, and then you get it all and you say, well, is that all there is? I mean, is that it? If that's it, remember that old song? Then let's keep dancing, right? Well, this is more than let's keep dancing. Let's keep living. And so then the spiritual search begins to go that way as well, not because anything's been taken away from you, but because you got what you wanted and that didn't answer your questions. But the important thing is that the search began and that the Course in Miracles is an alchemy. What I mean by an alchemy and the way it works, the way all alchemy works, it's a churning, turning over, kind of working around, cooking sort of a thing where bits and pieces of ideas and concepts begin to come to fruitions, and there are ahas which happen, and you get it. And then also behind some of the ahas, and I get it, there's a deeper question. which yet remains. The deeper questions are always going to be there until we get to this point where all the questions are. Then we can talk about being enlightened, but I don't know anybody I do know one person that says they're enlightened, but not too many of us are at that point. That's where we're going. We're going all the way home to God again. This is the best way we can use our bodies. Real vision has nothing to do with the body's eyes. It's the vision which is given to the mind. As the Course says, corrective learning always begins with the awakening of spirit, which I just said, and the turning from the belief in physical sight. So turning from the belief in physical sight is really just saying, I know that the answer is not out there. I know the answer is not in the world. The world has no real satisfaction. So let's go on to the top of page 5. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. Now let me add that another thing the Course says is that your basic function is creation, and that you are creating now and always. By now and always, I mean you're creating in heaven still, though you don't see that. But then that creation can be something that continues to happen within the world as well. And you think of creation as loving, as extending love. It doesn't have to be in some literal kind of physical sense. I picked up Scott from the town driving down, and he said in the car that he was sort of getting some of these songs. They're being channeled to him. That's another part of the kind of creative thing where when we begin to literally get in tune, then we do begin to hear it may come out as poetry, it may come out as music, it may just come out as a really good idea that you'd like to put into implementation. But that inspiration, there's a line in the Course where inspiration is for all, and it's available for all. But it can't be, you can't be getting inspired. You've got to be receptive to it. That's the whole point. You may have heard me say in the past, the basic difference between a mystic and what I'll call a normal or ordinary person, the basic difference is that the ordinary, normal person, which is almost all of us, all of the time, we are projectors. We're making up the world. Projection makes perception, right? So we're projectors. We're making up the world we see. A mystic, which is the direction we're going in here now, rather than being a projector, is a receptor. So they simply see. But seeing, just pure seeing, is beautiful. Then there's no evaluation, there's no judgment. There's no interpretation of what is being seen. What's happening is that the eyes are simply loving whatever they fall upon. They're not analyzing what they fall upon. That's a very important point. The ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts. It's a direct quote from A Course in Miracles. The ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts. So we're just accepting, but what accepting is beautiful because we're allowing to be what is. And then it has a beautiful quality about it, even if it's something that you might not think has a beautiful quality about it, right? One woman told me once, I was talking about changing her baby's diapers. Now you think that might not be something that, she said, it's beautiful. I mean, if you can see, I know, I get some frowns on some faces here, but it is what it is, and from the right perspective, it's just what it is. No, there's nothing to it. You just do it. You just clean it up, and you go on, right? Let's go back to this passage in the top of 5. The love of God for a little while must still be expressed through one body to another because vision is still so dim. So the Course is really leading us to this, what true vision or complete vision, or seeing things the way Christ sees, seeing through the way that the Holy Spirit sees, which literally, again, means that you are literally blessing everything the eyes fall upon, including caca, right? It doesn't make any difference. That's why it's agathokakalogical. There's where the caca part comes in, the good and the bad. You know, we're not analyzing the good and the bad. It's just what it is. Again, back to this. You can use your body best to help you enlarge your perception. Now, this is interesting because we've talked a few times in the past about the purpose of the body, or the use of the body. We've recognized that the body is the limitation in form. And there's a certain sense in which, for us, and I'm sure that everyone here has felt this, that it's a kind of prison. I mean, it's a kind of prison in the sense of, especially if it's in pain, then it's a torture chamber. It's not just a prison, it's a torture chamber, right, if you're in pain. But it's a delimitation. Spirit has no such delimitation. In that sense, Spirit does not and cannot feel pain, not in the way that we do. The question often comes up in relationship to A Course in Miracles, did Jesus experience pain on the cross? And from the standpoint of the Course in Miracles, the answer is no. Because he knew he was not a body. The last line of Mighty Fortress by Martin Luther says, the body they may kill, God's truth endureth still. Right? That's the main thing. And knowing that the truth is what we're looking for. Let me repeat that line and then go on further. You can use your body best to help you enlarge your perception. So the body is a learning device, and we can use it to enlarge our perception, to enlarge our awareness. Let's think about what awareness. Back in the late 60s, the early 70s, for 10 years actually, from 1969 to 1979, I taught a course just down the block here. I think it's interesting, it's just down the block, at the New School University here in New York City. The title of that course was Consciousness Expansion and Religious Experience, right? Which is sort of a way of talking about mystical experiences, right? And I taught that over and over again. Well, what happens when the consciousness it opens, right? So part of the opening means that it's more accepting, right? Whereas the ego mind just does exactly the opposite from that. By that I mean it contracts and it closes in. And not only does it contract and close in, but it encloses into itself. So it closes into itself, and then it becomes like this little lonely shell of a thing. You know, it's not expansive, it's not loving, it's not giving. We're talking about an expansive mind is giving. Some of you know religious science, Ernest Holmes' work, Science of Mind. Well, he always described his philosophy, and I think it was a really great way to talk about your philosophy, as open at the top. Now, what he meant by open at the top was that it was not a closed system. The moment we have laws and rules and regulations and dogmas, creeds, rules, those are all ways of locking down the doors and shutting things down and saying it has to fit inside this framework. This is why the church is in trouble today, is because people can't live within the framework. They say, no, and all these things that you've locked, this cannot, all these rules and regulations, this cannot be true. What it means, again, to say that you're open at the top, it just means that you're willing to allow your ideas to change. If a better idea comes along, well, here's a better idea. You know, it showed up here at the latter quarter of the 20th century, early part of the 21st century, where this is a better way of seeing. So seeing how we got a better way of seeing, let's go for the better way of seeing, which again remains completely open. By that I mean there's no such thing as rules and regulations and dogmas and creeds in the course. There are principles, but you don't even have to do that. But the principles are the kind of principles that say, you know, if you would like to be happy, do this. Now, you don't have to do it. There's nothing that says you got to do this book. There's nothing that says you got to do the course. But those who do it and who implement it and who make it work, suddenly more and more, you progressively become more aware of how literally enlightening this process is. So let me go a little bit further here. Have a drink first. You can use your body to help you enlarge your perception so you can achieve real vision. Now, what it means by real vision is vision which is not of the body's eyes. Real vision is not physical vision. It's vision. It's mind. It's the mind's eye. So when the mind's eye sees at another level. It's not a physical eye that's doing the seeing. It's an eye that transcends the little eye altogether, of which the physical eye is incapable, because the physical eye just sees the outside. Learning to do this is the body's only true usefulness. We talked about the body before as a learning device. Well, this is how the learning device works. And then let's go on. Have you not wondered what the world is really like? This is interesting. Right? How it would look through happy eyes? What happens with our eyes? We look out on the world, but we spend so much time condemning the world and analyzing the world. Stop it. You know, stop. Right. I'm not going to do that again, but stop the analysis. You know, of course, just stop the analysis. Stop the interpretation. Let it be what it is. And when you let it be what it is, it's fine. Not only is it fine, it's absolutely beautiful. Whatever it is, it's just, let me go a little further. The world you see is but a judgment on yourself. It is not there at all. That's why we're always making it. Now, don't take that too literal. I mean, don't take it too literal and think that you're not creating everybody that you see in that literal, physical sense of the word. But you are creating your interpretation of it. You are creating your analysis of it. And you are deciding whether you can look out on the world and bless it or curse it. It's that simple. You want to bless the world you see? You want to curse the world you see? Which one of these is going to make you happy? Right? Of course. And let's just go on to this next paragraph. Yet judgment lays a sentence on it, justifies it, and makes it real. Such is the world you see, a judgment on yourself and made by you. See, the thing that the ego doesn't see, everything, of course, is reflexive. By reflexive, I mean that if I throw my judgment out onto the world, then that's what reflects back to me. Okay, so that's what comes back. I am simply getting what I'm projecting. So I see the problem, and by God, there's a problem. There's a problem because I'm seeing a problem. I'm saying there's a problem out there. And then sure enough, inside yourself, you do indeed have a problem. For much of the time, that's why just let somebody else, okay, so they're arrogant, so they're rude, leave them alone. Let them be arrogant, let them be rude, and even that will change, right? Because it doesn't make any difference if they're arrogant and rude. It makes a difference if you say it makes a difference to you. But that's the only thing that makes a difference. And if you got to go telling other people about it, then you're just amplifying it and making it even worse. You know? So your boss is a bit of a pushy and demanding. Okay, he's pushy and demanding. Leave him alone. Let him be pushy and demanding. You know? It doesn't have to drive you crazy. Right? There may be those rare instances in which you can do something, but they're more likely rare. Let's go to the bottom of 5. Hearing the sounds and senses, busy world engenders, yet he hears them faintly, for beyond them he hears the song of heaven, and the voice of God more clear, more meaningful, more near. See, as this begins to work, then even in what we would have called the ugly, it's not. It's not so ugly. And then let's go and I want to at least get through 6 and 7 before we take our break. Perception is a result and not a cause. That is so important, that one perception is a result and not a cause. Right? So let's look. So projection makes perception, period. We got that, right? And perception is a choice. Projection makes perception, and perception is a choice. It's me, the chooser, who decides how I wish to see whatever it is that I'm seeing. Everything looked upon with vision is healed and holy. Again, the Course would talk about the eyes of Christ. Another way to use the same kind of analogy. So you can imagine the way Jesus sees things. There's no condemnation, there's no analysis, there's just blessing. There's just loving. Whatever it is. That includes loving the Pharisees and the Sadducees, as well as the young children who come to him, as well as the disciples. There's no one is treated any different or better than anyone else. Let's skip to the next little paragraph. Damnation is your judgment on yourself, and this you will project onto the world. See it as damned, and all you see is what you did to hurt the Son of God. If you behold disaster and catastrophe, you try to crucify him. If you see holiness and hope, You join the will of God to set him free. There is no choice that lies between these two decisions. So we're either, I said before, but we'll reiterate, we're either always blessing or cursing the world that we see. It's one of the two. Which one do you want to be doing? You want to be blessing it, or you want to be cursing it? There's no choice between these two. You're either doing one or the other. And you will see the witness to the choice you made. You will see the witness to the choice you made by what reflects back, what comes back at you, right? And learn from this to recognize which one you choose. Now that's very, very helpful. To learn. So let's say that you're throwing some condemnation out there on the world, and suddenly some condemnation, that's that contra remarsin thing, that comes back your way. Think about your part in the projection. A little bit further. The world you see but shows you how much joy you have allowed yourself to see in you and accept as yours. And if this is its meaning, then the power to give it joy must lie within. Let's talk for a second about what joy is. Okay. Oh, wait, you can't do it without a mic, hon. I am absolutely sorry. All right. Here you go, George.
Thanks. He's saying there that what I see reflected back to me. But if I see what I see sometimes comes from perception rather than vision. He makes a big distinction. What I see is through my mind on this level.
Right.
What I envision is what I experience in the mind of God, as
Right.
it were.
Right.
But here he says, if I'm looking at a reflection of if I'm looking at something, I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused.
Why are you confused?
I'm confused because what I normally see is from a perception. What he's
Right.
asking of us is to see from a visionary perspective.
Right.
So
So if I'm seeing it from the lower perspective, then I also want to see that so that I can get above it. If I don't like what's coming back my way, I have to think, what is my part in what's coming back my way?
okay.
That's the question. And how much am I responsible for what's coming back my way, having been something that I'm throwing out there in the world in the first place? I'm catching the perception
Got it.
as well as the vision.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification.
Well, thank you, honey. Okay, let's go a little further. I want to do the next piece before we break. Now, the next part, I know that I've read this in this class 3 times in the past 2 years or more, but it happens to be the point we're at right now, and there's some new folks in the room today who haven't gone over it with us. This is section 2 from this chapter. It's a very, very important principle to understand. It's called the responsibility for sight, which in a way is what Shanti was just asking about. I mean, she was asking about what I do see coming back my way, how much of that is mine? It's all yours. Both the good, the hurtful and the helpful. But let's read this passage. I'm going to, in the next paragraph, I've underlined, and I want to emphasize as I read certain words in this paragraph. This is the first paragraph of section 2. We have repeated how little is asked of you to learn this course. It is the same small willingness you need to have your whole relationship transferred to joy. The little gift you offer, to which the Holy Spirit gives you everything. The very little on which salvation rests. The tiny change of mind. See, it's just this little change of mind. It's just this little tiny thing. I mean, and it can happen just like that. You just reckon, oh, I'm seeing this the wrong way. I could be seeing this through loving eyes. I could visionary eyes instead of these perceptive eyes, right? And being true, it is so simple. That's the thing about truth is that it's just so simple. There's nothing complex about this at all. People pick this up and they, oh my God, 1,000 pages, there's no way. And in this 1,000 pages, first of all, one of the things it does, it just keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again. And the reason it keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again, using different words, it's very clever, but it's still the same thing, is because we're so dull. It does. I mean, it takes a lot to help to wake us up because we are in this sleeping mode. I said before, crash and burn experiences will wake you up. But crash and burn experience is like getting slapped in the face. It's kind of like, wake up! You know, now. That's not the way you want to wake up. And so what the Course in Miracles is doing it's going, wake up, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. You know, how would a mother awaken a child? You know, not by screaming at the child. The mother would gently nudge the child till the eyes come open, and then that would be it. And that's why this is slow going for us. Right? Although there are those exceptional cases of people in automobile accidents or industrial accidents or whatever have to face death straight on like Veronica did here, and then it's a real wake-up that happens for you, or like Cora did. It's a real wake-up for you. Going ahead with this, okay? And being true, it's so simple, it cannot be fully, completely understood. It can be failed to be completely understood. Rejected, yes, but not ambiguous. And if you choose against it now, it will not be because it's obscure, but rather this little cost, this tiny change of mind, you know, in your judgment, is too much to pay for peace. You know, we want to hold on to our insanity. You know, we want to justify our insanity. We just want the rest of the world to be wrong so that we can be right. So it takes a little bit of, you know, the Course doesn't use the word courage. I think it's interesting, words that never ever appear in the Course. Over 1,000 pages, the word courage never appears even one time in the entire book, right? Because courage can be an ego function as well. You know, it could be foolhardiness, which gets you killed driving a race car around a track real fast. You want to call that courage, or that's the search for fame, which gets you killed, right? On the other hand, what the word the Course uses is willingness. A willingness, just a little will, and it actually uses the word little willingness. Just a little willingness to let what's true be true. And how simple could it get? Just a little willingness to let the truth be the truth. So, this is the part we've done before, but we're going to go over it one more time. This is the only thing you need to do for vision, happiness, release from pain, and the complete escape from sin, all to be given you. Well, think about it. This is the only thing you need to do for vision, happiness, release from pain, complete escape from sin, all to be given you. Say only this. So there's something you have to say. Oh, damn. But you've got to mean it. But mean it. It's not enough to say this. Mean it with no reservation. If you mean this with no reservation, then the next line, herein the power of salvation lies. So you have to mean this. You can't just say it. You can't just mouth the words, right? That's what we got to do. A lot of those workbook lessons in the Course, we can mouth the words, but you got to take it into you to have it transform you. And this is what you say. I am. Now, am is bold, and I'm going to underline to emphasize, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience. I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for. And I receive as I have asked. Now, I remember reading that here once before and then saying to the class, do you really believe that last line? And some of you said yes. Right? Everything that seems to happen to me. Now, there are going to be things that are going to happen to us, and we're going to say, I did not ask for this. No way. This accident? It wasn't even my fault. He hit me. I didn't, where the hell? Why, this came out of the blue. And all of a sudden, an illness of some sort comes on you. And you think,
Heart attack.
What?
Victoria's heart
Like Victoria, yeah, good example. Vicky's heart attack. You still got the mic?
Yeah, I'm going to tell the truth about this because I really did ask for that heart attack. I was in an argument. No, listen, I was in an argument with my boyfriend that day, and I smoked a damn pack of cigarettes. So
Oh.
I really did ask for that heart attack.
There you go. Yeah, a little self-destruction.
Just a little.
That'll do it. Getting upset, getting angry. Amy, did you want to say something? Get the mic to Amy.
I have real trouble. I have real trouble with this
Okay.
because I was born and immediately died, and I was brought back, but was legally dead. And I know how the hell could I have asked for
Put
that?
right to your mouth.
How could I have asked for that at the moment of birth?
Okay. So there are a lot of questions like that. Why does a 5-year-old child get cancer? That kind of a thing. I have no way of knowing. None of us could really know. On a greater cosmic level scheme of things, it's practically impossible for any of us to know why. One of the things you cannot know is somebody else's spiritual life story. I mean, it's tough enough to kind of try to figure out our own spiritual journey and how to work our way through that. But another person's drama, another person's story. Now, sometimes you can, like in Veronica's case here, you can figure it out. She's upset, she's angry, she's smoking a whole pack of cigarettes at that same time, and then bang, it happens. I don't know why a child is born, dies, and then come back. I don't know why. I did a funeral for a 9-year-old boy once. We don't know why. I mean, why would a 9-year-old, of all things? Now, I know that there's a learning in there and a lesson in there, and not so much for the child, but for the parents. For those of us who get left behind, we're the ones that really have the lesson in a case like that. We're the ones who have to. I was talking with a friend this week whose husband died December of last year, about how she's doing. And she was actually describing the process that she's going through. And she said, well, she was getting better, but now it's kind of come back on her again and sunk in that he's, the level of awareness of how permanent this is, et cetera, et cetera. We just have to go through it. But as you go through it, I think one of the advantages of getting older, and this is true in both, it's always in the positive sense, actually, is that as you get older, it's easier to look backward through the spectrum of your life and say, now I see exactly why that divorce had to happen. At the time that divorce is going on, it makes no sense at all. Or that automobile accident, or that being fired, or that bankruptcy, or whatever it was. Somebody, a friend that I counsel a little bit, a psychologist, called me this week about something and then typed something, email, why am I going through this? And all I could do is I could write back, very simple, number one, I said, it is a lesson. And then I added some more, but that was the first line. It's a lesson. So if we're handed a lesson and it's on a spiritual level, then you have to try to figure out why you're being given this lesson. You will know with time. You won't know now. But that's fun one of the fun parts of getting older is that you get to see 20 years ago, 30 years ago, oh yeah, that was perfect, absolutely perfect. I was going to go to a different school when I didn't get in. So I came here to New York City instead to go to the new school. I'm so grateful that I came to the new school and didn't get into that other school. It just changed everything to be here and to be living in Greenwich Village in the 1970s. That was a lot of fun. And meeting Helen and Bill and all that. I mean, that just was a part of it. I want to read one more passage to you on page 8. We're about 5 minutes away from taking our break. So one of the things that I mentioned on the top, I've often said if you really want to understand the Course, sometimes you could just get it in one lesson, and there's a lot of those lessons that would work, and one of those lessons that I think if you could really understand 31, you'd be going a long ways in terms of understanding the whole Course, and 31 is I am not a victim of the world I see. If you can really get, I am not a victim of the world I see, you're really, in other words, you are being responsible for whatever it is, right? Course is all about being responsible. Who's got the mic on this side of the room? Can you hand it back to Dawn on the back row there?
I'm just a little, I don't know if stuck or just back on the point we were making before on I receive as I have asked. And I would bet that there's an awful lot of people who smoked a pack of cigarettes and got upset and didn't have a heart attack. I think we see children that have something happen and they live and those that don't. But the way I interpret this is everything that seems to happen to me I ask for and receive as I have asked is because I'm here. It's just simply because I'm here. And the way that's talked about in my local course group is we talk about the birth canal being like a roller coaster ride. It's like, you want to go, get online. We're going to go. It's like, whoosh. Here I come into Earth. And it's,
Screaming.
what's that? Yes.
Screaming.
And all the things that happen in the course of what is defined as a life for anyone is as I have asked long before I got here. And, even the way we talk about it, it's like, you want to go again? Just like it's done in a roller coaster. It's like I chose to get on that ride. And it's like it threw me upside down, and I thought I was going to throw up, and all that happened on the ride is just as I've chosen it. So to me, it's not a daily question of did I pick this or did I pick this? It's like, I'm here, aren't I?
Good. Very good, yes. So it's all the time. All right, one more passage and then we'll take our break. I want to read the bottom of 8 to you. Oh, yeah, the whole section. It's impossible, the Son of God. It is impossible the Son of God be merely driven by events outside of him. Of course, you are the Son of God. It is impossible that happenings that come to him were not his choice. His power of decision, the power of decision is we could talk a lot more about that, but is the determiner of every situation in which he seems to find himself by chance or accident. And then this next really great line, no accident or chance is possible within the universe as God created it, outside of which is nothing. Suffer, and you decide sin was your goal. Be happy, and you gave the power of decision to him who must decide for God, for you. This is the little gift you offer to the Holy Spirit, and even this he gives to you to give yourself. For by this gift is given you the power to release your Savior, that he may give salvation unto you. And I'll stop at that particular point. Okay. So that's another way to say this is that there are literally no accidents, even when it appears to be an accident. I think I told you the story once before of a guy who told me, I was in England giving a talk, and he said that he was in a car, he was a passenger in a car, which was headed sliding into the side of a truck. And he heard, just as they're going in, 3 sentences. 1, don't worry. 2, this has to happen. 3, everything will be okay. The interesting line is the second one. This has to happen, right? All right, let's take a break and then we'll have Scott. Just a couple of things before we close. For some of those of you who may be new with us, if you're interested, we go out and have a bite to eat after this. We have reservations at Saigon Market, which is on University Place, just 100 feet south of 12th Street. You just walk over on 12th Street 2 blocks and make a left. And we have a reservation. We have a big round table, holds 12 people for the Miracles group. Just say you're part of the Miracles group. And they'll see, I won't be there for a few minutes because they have to pack up and stuff like that.
It only holds 12 disciples?
That's it. That's it. If necessary, they'll give us 2 tables or whatever. There's always room at this time of day. 4:45 is when the reservations are. We will not meet in August. That's vacation time, so I'll enjoy it, and I will see you. I think it's like September 11th or something.
13th.
Like 13th, okay. You know the calendar better than I. We're going to be in California for a little while. We usually close with, I do a meditation based on one of the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Today, rather than doing one of the lessons, I'm actually going to read a passage from this chapter that we were studying today, chapter 21. It's one of the more beautiful sections in the Course. And then we end by reading what's called the Lord's Prayer from A Course in Miracles. So let me get my information here. You'll need the booklet when I end, so if you have one handy. You don't need it now, but when we get around to the Lord's Prayer. Oh, I got the wrong booklet. That didn't help much. This is one of the more beautiful sections from A Course in Miracles. As you know, there's points at which the Course is so beautiful that it almost makes you want to cry. And it's clear that this is not Helen. This is clear that this is coming from way beyond, right? So if you want to just close your eyes and relax and take a couple of deep breaths and be comfortable. Listen. Perhaps you catch a hint of an ancient state, not quite forgotten, dim perhaps, and yet not altogether unfamiliar, like a song whose name is long forgotten, and the circumstance in which you heard it completely unremembered. Not the whole song has stayed with you, but just a little wisp of melody, attached not to a person or a place or anything particular, but you remember, from just this little part, how lovely was the song, how wonderful the setting where you heard it, and how you love those who were there and listened with you. Listen and see if you can remember an ancient song you knew so long ago and held more dear than any melody you taught yourself to cherish since. Beyond the body, beyond the sun and stars, past everything you see and yet somehow familiar, is an arc of golden light that stretches as you look into a great and shining circle. And all the circle fills with light before your eyes. The edge of the circle disappears, and what is in it is no longer contained at all. The light expands and covers everything, extending to infinity forever, shining and with no break or limit anywhere. Within it is everything joined in perfect continuity, nor is it possible to imagine that anything could be outside, for there is nowhere this light is not. And if you don't know it, if you'd like to take your booklet and turn to the last page. Or the next to the last page. Some of you may have this memorized by this time. We pause at each comma and stop at each period. Okay? Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Your holiness is ours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this, mine, which you created and which you love.